Alright, take a breath, because this story doesn't tiptoe in quietly, it crashes through the door and dares you to look away. So let me paint this exactly as it unfolded, because none of this felt accidental. Saturday Night Live is supposed to be harmless. Cheap laughs, popcorn jokes, the kind of humor that fades the moment the credits roll. But that night, the energy shifted before anyone even realized why. Colin Jost walked out wearing that familiar, calm smile, the one that says, "Relax, this is just comedy." And then, without raising his voice, without any dramatic build-up, he dropped it. The new UK trade deal is simple. America keeps Meghan Markle. For half a second, the room froze. Not laughter, not gasps, just that razor-sharp silence where everyone checks the faces around them like, did he actually say that? And then it hit. Laughter exploded, loud, messy, relieved laughter. The kind that only happens when someone finally says the thing people have been thinking but were afraid to admit out loud. The audience roared, applause rolled, and somewhere far away from Studio 8H, Montecito went ice cold. Insiders say the reaction wasn't quiet. A wine glass allegedly slammed into marble. Phones started lighting up. Because this wasn't just a joke. This wasn't playful teasing. This was a public declaration that the gloves were off. Snell didn't just poke her, they cracked the door she spent years keeping bolted shut. And then Colin went back in. Round 2. Only if she deletes her Instagram again, another wave of laughter, bigger this time, sharper, because everyone understood exactly what that meant. Her brand, her image, the carefully curated quotes, the soft focus photos, the glowing lifestyle aesthetic. That image has always been her armor. And when comedians stop mocking your talent and start mocking your brand, it means they see the fractures. But then came the line that made backstage insiders stiffen. A quick, almost casual reference. Prince Andrew, certain islands, no names spelled out, no explanations offered. Just tossed into the air like a feather, but it landed like a brick. Insiders say panic rippled immediately. Because that wasn't a random joke. That was the one subject everyone had been instructed never to touch. Not a headline scandal, not a viral rumor, a whisper. The kind passed quietly between industry insiders behind closed doors. Snell hadn't just laughed at her. They brushed against the one chapter she's worked the hardest to erase. And just as the laughter was still echoing, the universe decided to strike the match. The yacht photos resurfaced. Not blurry party shots, not awkward paparazzi snaps. These were polished, sun-drenched, magazine-quality images. A gleaming yacht anchored off a European coast. Designer sunglasses, champagne catching the light in crystal glasses, staff moving with smooth, practiced discretion. And right in the center, a woman who looked unmistakably like Meghan Markle, laughing, relaxed, perfectly placed in the frame. Not Duchess Meghan, not humanitarian Meghan. This was pre-royal, pre-palace, pre-fairy tale Meghan. The version sold to the world as a struggling actress, grinding her way forward with yoga mats and vision boards. And nothing about those photos screamed struggling. Everything about them whispered access, privilege, invitation-only luxury. The timing raised eyebrows immediately. She was in the middle of another reinvention, new wine venture, new media projects, another lifestyle push, and suddenly images from a chapter she never includes in her story floated right back into public view. People didn't ask, is that her? They asked, how did she get there? Because the Meghan of that era wasn't supposed to have billionaire-level access. Yachts like that don't come with casual invitations, they come with names on lists. Powerful names. One insider said it flat out, people don't just end up on those boats without someone important opening the door. And just like that, whispers long buried started breathing again. The kind Meghan thought had been sealed forever. Now, lining themselves up neatly beside that Snell joke that dared to say the quiet part out loud. Once the photos were out, no one was looking at the scenery. They were studying the timeline. Because the public narrative didn't match the images. Back then, she was talking about hustle, humility, manifesting dreams, a regular girl chasing success with grit and charm. But luxury yachts don't run on affirmations. They don't float on Pinterest boards. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Her story said modest beginnings. The photos said elite circles. Her interviews painted early struggle. The images painted curated access to rooms most people never even see. And that disconnect, that's where the fairy tale started started cracking. To understand why this hit so hard, you have to understand the brand she spent years building. Every detail was intentional. Handwritten notes, lifestyle moments that felt warm and attainable. She crafted an image that felt safe, clean. The modern Cinderella, avocado toast instead of glass slippers. That image wasn't just for fans, it was her currency. But when your entire public identity is built on being self-made, anything that challenges that becomes dangerous. And those yacht photos didn't challenge it, they flipped it upside down. Because the woman in those images didn't look like someone slowly climbing. She looked like someone who already had keys to doors the public was told she hadn't reached yet. A Hollywood source summed it up quietly, her brand relies on consistency, and once that consistency breaks, everything shakes. When she entered the royal orbit, the palace didn't hesitate. According to insiders, once her relationship became serious, quiet checks began. Not dramatic investigations, careful ones. Every corner, every forgotten box. And when whispers surfaced about elite gatherings and powerful connections, the response wasn't panic. It was polished. Stories faded, threads disappeared, publications were gently redirected, focused forward, not back. It worked as long as the past stayed buried. But resurfaced photos don't ask permission. And Snell didn't read the palace memo. After everything hit at once, the jokes, the images, the revived whispers, people expected a response. A statement, a denial, a carefully worded message about resilience. Anything. Instead, silence. No posts, no quotes, no staged outings, no accidentally photographed coffee runs, just lockdown level quiet. Inside the house, sources described chaos. Phones buzzing, staff pacing, emails flying. One comment stopped everyone cold. She didn't know which part to deny. And that changes everything. Because when something is false in Hollywood or royalty, you shut it down fast, loudly. You don't freeze, you don't hide, but she froze. And when someone goes still in a storm, the world leans in closer. Then something else shifted. Harry pulled back, not physically, emotionally. He stopped appearing the way he used to. The defensive interviews vanished. The forced smiles disappeared. Insiders say he looked distant, distracted, like someone rereading a contract he'd signed years ago and finally noticing the fine print. He had given up everything to protect her story. Titles, family, home. He built his new life around her narrative. And now, with old photos resurfacing and questions unanswered, insiders say he began wondering what chapters he never saw. The silence between them reportedly grew heavier than the headlines. She fought to hold the story together. He stood back, trying to understand it. And here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. The scandal isn't the joke. It isn't the photos. It isn't the tension behind closed doors. The real scandal is the illusion. Because Meghan Markle didn't just rise, she curated her ascent. Every image, every interview, every reinvention carefully placed. And fairy tales only survive as long as the mask stays on. Now it's slipping. And the world isn't asking if that was her on the yacht anymore. They're asking what else never made it into the story. And once that question starts echoing, it doesn't stop. This isn't the end. It's the moment right before the curtain lifts. And once that question is out there, it doesn't just hover quietly. It multiplies. It creeps into every old interview, every carefully chosen anecdote, every moment she once used as proof of her authenticity. People start replaying clips with different ears. That I worked so hardline suddenly sounds rehearsed. That I had nothing moment suddenly feels selective. Because when the illusion cracks, hindsight becomes ruthless. Industry insiders say this is where things get dangerous for her, not legally, not officially, but culturally. The court of public opinion doesn't need documents, it needs doubt. And doubt has officially moved in. Because now, even the most loyal supporters are whispering, why didn't we know this part? And critics aren't even yelling anymore. They're calmly connecting dots, which is far more damaging. What makes it worse is that silence is no longer neutral. Every day without a response gives the story more oxygen. Blogs dig deeper, old acquaintances suddenly remember things. Names that were once kept vague start popping up again in hushed tones. Not accusations, just associations. And in scandals like this, association alone is enough to muddy the water. Meanwhile, her rebrand plans reportedly stalled. Projects that were supposed to feel fresh and aspirational now feel awkwardly timed. Lifestyle content hits differently when the lifestyle looks less organic and more curated by invisible hands. Even neutral audiences feel uneasy, not angry, just suspicious. And suspicion sticks. People close to the situation say Meghan is furious, not scared. Furious that after years of control, the narrative slipped. Furious that a comedy show did what critics and tabloids never fully managed to do, make people laugh at the image itself. Because laughter dissolves authority. Once the public laughs at a brand, it stops fearing it. And Harry, those close to him describe a man retreating inward. Less performative outrage, less defiance, more quiet observation. He's not rushing to fix this, he's watching it unfold. And that alone speaks volumes. Because for years, he charged into battles on her behalf without hesitation. Now he's pausing, thinking, processing. Friends say this has triggered something deeper, a realization that love and loyalty don't require blindness, that protecting someone doesn't mean never asking questions. And if that shift is real, it's seismic, because everything they've built publicly relies on the idea that they are united against the world. Cracks in that unity change the entire story. What's unfolding now isn't a scandal spike, it's a slow burn. The kind that doesn't explode and disappear. It lingers. It reshapes perception quietly. No dramatic press conference, no single headline to end it, just a steady erosion of trust. And that's the part no PR team can fully repair. Because once people suspect that the story they were sold had missing chapters, they don't stop at yachts. They revisit everything. The friendships, the connections, the timing, the sudden leaps that were once framed as luck or destiny. This moment isn't about the past anymore, it's about credibility going forward. About whether the next reinvention will be believed. About whether the public is still willing to suspend disbelief. Because the illusion didn't shatter all at once. It cracked. And everyone is leaning closer, waiting to see how wide that crack becomes and what finally falls through it.